Greetings and welcome to a special edition of the Big D Podcast. Before I announce today's special guest, please subscribe, like, share, and comment on the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page, where you can not only see my guest this evening, but see my Super Bowl prediction. And tomorrow, we've got a betting expert from the UK to decide on Premier League football and the Super Bowl. Some people may not know this day, but all special guests definitely knows what today is. It's Happy National Girls and Women in Sports Day, and it's a fitting that one of America's best middle distance runners is on the podcast tonight, Kim Conley. Kim, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Kim is a two-time U.S. Olympian, representing the Stars and Stripes in the 2012 London Olympics and 2016 Rio Olympics in the 5,000 meters. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay, so Kim, my first question is, when did you get your first pair of running shoes?
Oh, wow. Well, probably before my first track season, which was in 1998. I was in sixth grade, and I joined the Santa Rosa Express Track Club.
So, what's the earliest running memory you could think of?
In fourth grade, we started running the mile in PE. And there was only one boy in my class that could beat me. So he became my crush and eventually my first boyfriend.
So was there maybe not a rivalry, but like a friendly rivalry, where you're like, I want to win and get that competitive side early?
You know, the rivalry was more with the boy that was the second fastest boy in the class that I could beat. He really didn't like that. And he even had his mom call my mom to let me know that he had poison oak the day that I beat him. And that was why he lost.
Somebody's put in the excuse.
Yep.
What led you to try running?
Really, I played a different sport every season. Soccer in the fall and winter in the basketball. In the spring, it was softball, but I got a little bit bored with softball. I felt like I didn't get to run around enough. So when my mom heard about a local track team for kids, we decided to quit softball and join the track team instead.
Yeah, one thing that I definitely didn't get to enjoy was competing in multiple sports. I mean, competing in multiple sports can bring out the best people because you can try all kinds of different sports, whether it be running, basketball, football, soccer, swimming.
Yeah.
So, did you have any running role models as a kid?
I did, yeah. My freshman year of high school, Sara Bei, now Sarah Hall, she was a senior on my high school team. And so I really looked up to her, and she taught me a lot about dedication, committed lifestyle, and the idea of setting goals and then working every day towards achieving them.
Perfect coincidence, because now we're talking about your first state cross-country championship for Montgomery High School in California. How nervous were you for that meet?
I think I was definitely nervous, but it was more rooted in excitement and adrenaline. You know, when you're a freshman in high school, you can be pretty naive. I certainly was. And so Sarah had set the tone back in August and said she believed that we were a team that could win the state meet. And the team hadn't actually even made it to the state meet the year before. So now I can appreciate what a lofty goal that was. But as a 14-year-old, I was just like, well, if Sara says that's what we're going to do, then that's what we're going to do. And so, we had a great season, and it all came together. I think 6 out of 7 girls ran their fastest cross country 5Ks of the season in the state meet. And so we all really rose to the occasion to get it done. So it was pretty crazy, but for me as the 14-year-old, I just was kind of like going for the ride, and I did what I thought we were supposed to do.
Was Sara a senior on that team?
Yeah.
And Sara being a senior on that team was almost being the inspirational leader, captain, must have sparked you almost to perform.
Yeah, she did give us a very inspiring speech beforehand. I don't really remember the details of it, but I do have a journal entry from after the race where I said in the journal entry that after Sara gave her speech, then like I was willing to just let it go, leave it all out on the course, and I just felt really, really motivated.
And so now you're in college at UC Davis, and you made UC Davis into a big time running program, correct?
We transitioned from Division II to Division I, and yeah, we definitely I continued to improve every year that I was there, and the program was growing up right alongside me. And then even after I graduated, I stayed on and continued to coach in the program. And so I really enjoyed getting to continue working with athletes and help the program continue to evolve.
So in 2008, you made the NCAA out to the 2008 outdoor track and field championships. Could you tell us about that experience?
I didn't make it outdoors on the track. I made it in cross country.
In cross country, sorry.
Yeah. So that was really exciting to qualify, because getting to NC2As was just a huge goal I had. I really, really wanted to end my college career. Well, I really wanted to end as an All-American, but getting to the cross country nationals was the first important step. And so that was a big feather in my cap. But then I finished 80th, and I needed to be in the top 40 to be All-American. So, I was still a little bit disappointed at the end of the season.
Hey, the fact you were even with a chance at an All-American and you're in cross country, it's been a feather in your cap, right?
Yeah.
So, what's the best bit of coaching advice you received?
One thing one of my coaches used to say to me before races when I was getting nervous was trust your fitness. And I always really liked that and leaned on it a lot, because I worked really hard in practice. And so, I could see improvements that I was making there. And so then when the race came, I knew that I just had to trust all the work I had done and let that show.
Being in Arizona, you're used to thin mountain air, used to cold winters and hot summers. Are there any advantages to train in Arizona's mountains compared to potentially a warm, humid environment like Rio, potentially an Olympics in Tokyo, potentially?
Well, I mean, there's certainly some science to back up training at altitude. Although, I also believe in descending to lower elevations to rehearse, like you're saying, some more similar conditions to where you're racing. But I think the biggest advantage is just that there are just so many beautiful places to run here. I never ever get bored. I love getting out the door to explore new roads and trails. So I'm just really, this is a place where all the goals and the hard training aside, I just feel so motivated every day to get outside and enjoy running.
So now the 2012 Olympic trials around, and you won the final. So technically you can make the team, but you don't have the Olympic A standards. So how you feeling going into that race knowing you could make the team, but need to A, finish in the top three, and B, get that A Olympic standard?
Yeah. Well, so when I graduated from UC Davis in 2009, I really just wanted to make it to the Olympic trials. That in and of itself was a pretty lofty goal. My PR back then was a minute slower than the Olympic standard. So I wasn't dreaming of being an Olympian. I just wanted to go to the Olympic trials because I thought that would be a really cool accomplishment. And then I made so much progress over those 3 years leading into 2012 that by the time the Olympic trials rolled around, my PR was only 5 seconds slower than the Olympic standard. And I'd started to be competitive with other women in the country that were going to be contending to make the Olympic team, at least on paper. And so even though I think, nobody else in the world was looking at me as a contender, I knew in my heart that it was possible for me to PR by 5 seconds in that race. And I also knew that it was possible for me to contend for a top 3 finish. It just seemed really improbable that both of those things could happen in that same, race and in the same moment. But just because I believed that the possibility existed, then I had to give myself the shot. So really going into that race, what I remember is just feeling very happy because, the long-term goal had been simply to be there, but not only was I there, I was there and I believed in my heart that I could contend to make the Olympic team, which was kind of crazy and thrilling. So that's the attitude I brought into the race. And then I just executed the race plan that my coach and I had designed, which meant a lot of leading because we wanted to keep the pace close enough to Olympic standard pace, even though it was a championship race. And I didn't do the best job. I looked at the clock at 3,000 meters and the time seemed way too slow to get the Olympic standard. So I definitely had some moments of doubt there. And I thought well, the Olympic standard can't happen. There's no way I'm going to make the Olympic team now. And I started to slip back and I actually fell back as far as 8th place. And then I heard my coach yelling for me and I snapped out of my little funk because I just remembered what a great journey we'd been on and that, my attitude going into the race was just that I was happy to be there and appreciating the opportunity. And so I decided to just try to get back into 5th place because I was just kind of trailing behind a group of women and I realized I could pass them and be in 5th place, and 5th place is way better than 8th place. So I moved up to 5th place. And then when I moved up there, I saw that the woman in 3rd place, Julia Lucas, she had made a really, really hard move with 1,200 meters to go and she was starting to pay for it. And so I suddenly started to think wow, I feel like I'm really gaining on her. I feel like I could actually move into 3rd place. And I still thought the Olympics were out of the question because I thought we were running too slow for the Olympic standard. But I just decided I wanted to stand on the podium at the Olympic trials and still have that honor. And so I just bared down with everything I had in me over the last 400 meters. And then throughout my life, just, like I say, running is fun for me. And I love just getting out there and exploring. And I had, great high school memories and it's just always been play. And so, and as part of that, I have done a lot of hey, race you back to the car or race you into the track, when you're on a run. And when I would do that with my teammates, we always would lean at the line and break invisible finish line tapes. And so I think that just instinctually that was in me just from rehearsing it in play over all the years. And so for whatever reason, as I was catching Julia in that last 100 meters, I just leaned at the line and then I ended up beating her by 0.04 seconds and getting under the Olympic standard by 0.21 seconds.
So that lean not only got you a 3rd place, but got you in the A Olympic standard, which meant you on the plane to London.
That's right.
So how did it feel to make the London Olympic team?
It was so shocking, because like I say, during the race, I had totally given up on getting the Olympic standard. So when I first crossed the line, I just stood there staring at the Jumbotron because they were analyzing the photo finish. So it took a long time for the results to post. And I just really expected to be like a few seconds slower than the Olympic standard, but in third place. And so I just kind of stood there preparing myself to go into the mix zone and talk to the media and, kind of like compose myself for that like disappointing moment. But then when the results popped up and the Olympic rings were next to my name, it was just the most shocking and thrilling moment of my life.
And so now we're at the 2012 Olympics, and you're racing the 5K prelim. What were your thoughts going into the London Olympic Stadium for your first race?
It was it was such a whirlwind. I was really like riding so much adrenaline. I was in so much shock after making the Olympic team. And I was nervous about people thinking that I was a fluke. And so I really, really wanted to make the final. And so I didn't, but I did PR again by another 5 seconds. And so, I felt like I raced the best race I had in me. And then kind of coming off the race, I really just felt motivated because, I'd signed a contract with New Balance. I was finally a professional runner. I'd made it to the Olympic stage, and then 4 years stretched out before me. And I thought, wow, how much better could I be in 4 years trying, to go to Rio. And so, yeah, I mean, I went into the Olympics just kind of like shocked and thrilled by the whole thing. And I left just feeling like very, very motivated.
Yeah, a couple questions about not just shoes, but with so many doping and PED issues coming from the London Olympics, have you ever been in a race where you felt like you were at a disadvantage, whether doping or shoes?
Yeah, of course. In 2012, I was so new and naive. I didn't worry about it at all. I had no idea. But certainly, like, as my eyes have been opened since then, I've ridden all kinds of waves over how I feel about it. Sometimes just feeling like so jaded and frustrating that I'm never gonna work my way into higher ranks on the world level. That's what it takes. And that's not a road I would ever go down. But I kind of where I've landed is that I am trying to maximize my ability and get the most out of myself. And there are often going to be times where I'm racing people that are doing things the wrong way. But I just have to run my own race. And if they're around me and dragging me to a faster time, then I accept that. But I can't worry about the moments where I can't even be competitive with people that are doing things that way.
Yeah, it can be a little annoying knowing you're clean and all your training programs are legitimate and other people using illegal substances or illegal shoes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's I've definitely shed tears over it.
Speaking of shoes, you've been with New Balance for many, many years. How did your relationship with New Balance start? I know you referenced signing with New Balance after your Olympic trials performance.
Yeah, so they were really the only company that saw my potential before the Olympic trials. And so they had started sending me gear and the kit in 2012, that spring. And so that's why I was wearing New Balance at the Olympic trials. And then after I made the Olympic team, they offered me a contract right away and I signed it. And we've had a great relationship ever since.
Well, seemingly over the last decade or so, it seems like New Balance has really gotten a lot of top American runners. I mean, you think of Sydney McLaughlin, Emma Coburn, Ellie Perrier, Jenny Simpson. How much fun do you have watching your New Balance teammates compete?
A lot of fun. I love it. And the nice thing about it is it's pretty tight knit. Like we do dinners at meets like the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix or at the U.S. Championships. At the Olympic trials, New Balance rents out a house, and that becomes like the hub for all New Balance athletes. And so, yeah, having spent so many years as part of the company, I have just such a great relationship with so many people, and they're so loyal to their athletes. And so, it's like Jenny Simpson has been with New Balance longer than I have. Brenda Martinez has been with New Balance longer than I have. Like, so, we've all been friends for so long now. It's a really nice environment.
Yeah, and seemingly your girls are getting medals and competing at every international meet, because it's seemingly Emma Colburn won 2017 Worlds, got a silver in Doha. Jenny's contention in every meet. I mean, Ellie Perry has set what, the U.S. indoor mile record last year.
Yep.
And of course, Sydney McLaughlin won the Diamond League and finished second in the women's 400-meter hurdles.
Yeah.
Doha. So now 2014, and I bet you remember the 2014 US 10K, right? Where you famously beat Jordan Hsey on the last turn of the race.
Yes. Man, that was one of my favorite races ever. It was in Sacramento, where so UC Davis is like 15 miles from Sacramento, and I had moved to Sacramento at the end of college. So that's where I was based at that time. And so it felt like a home meet. I had tons of family and friends in the stand, and I really felt that energy during the race. And I did a lot of leading. Jordan just sat on my heels for pretty much the entire race. And I was just like, I just kept like winding and winding and winding. And I was trying so hard to drop her, and she wouldn't go. She hung on. And then with 200 meters to go, she made a huge move. Like, she was clearly, her race plan was to just sit on me and pounce with 200 meters to go. And so she made that huge move. But I just remember, like, going into that turn, I was just telling myself over and over, no gaps, no gaps, no gaps. Like, I was just not going to let her put a gap on me. And so then when we came off the final turn into that straightaway, I was able to move. She actually moved wide. And so I was able to keep lane one, move down the inside of the track. I could just like cheering for her. That was my first night special.
How exhausted did you feel at the end of that race? Oh, sorry. I think we've got some internet problems. How exhausted do you feel at the end of that race?
Really exhausted. It was, yeah. I mean, that race took a lot out of me. Yeah. And it was, I didn't cool down. I was like so swept up in all the media, and then you went straight to drug testing, and I was really dehydrated, so I couldn't pee forever. So it was a long night. I don't think I got home till like 1 a.m. And then I was like, trying to eat some dinner. But I was riding a huge adrenaline wave, and it was hard to even get to sleep after that.
So now the 2016 Olympic trials come around, and unlike 2012, you had already achieved the Olympic A qualifying standard. So what did the 2016 Olympic trials feel compared to 2012?
Yeah, it was a different experience. I really had my heart set on making the team in the 10,000. I think partly because I hadn't made the final at the London Olympics. I wanted to run the 10,000 because it's a straight final. There's no rounds in the 10,000. So I really wanted to run the 10,000. But at the Olympic trials, I was clipped from behind about 3 miles in, and my shoe came off. So I sat down and I put it back on, and I tried to catch up to the leaders. But I was working and working, but the gap wasn't closing. I wasn't able to catch back up to them. So at 5 miles, I dropped out. It was a really hard decision. That the stands at Hayward Field were packed. It wasn't like I could hear my coach, which it turned out he did want me to drop out and save myself for the 5,000. But I made that decision on my own, which is just never an easy decision to make. And then I just had to regroup, and I came back in the 5,000, and I was able to finish in third place again. It was a lot less dramatic than in 2012. But it felt like way more of a relief just after the whole saga of the 10,000. I was just like so happy and relieved to make the team in the 5,000 again.
So now you're at was competing in Rio's heat and humidity a challenge?
It was not nearly as much of a challenge as we anticipated. That was like a big point of discussion before the Rio Olympics. And so I actually went down to Houston, Texas and did my training there before flying to Rio so that I would acclimate. And then we got to Rio, and turns out that that's more like the winter season in Rio in August. And so I actually I remember feeling really cold because we'd been training in, the heat of a Houston summer. and then we got to like Rio, which was like 70 degrees and kind of rainy. And I just remember like, oh my gosh, I'm freezing.
Yeah, now you're thinking I should have trained in Switzerland or somewhere cooler, right? Yeah, because I remember before the last World Championships, a bunch of Americans training in Switzerland, even though Doha was steamy, hot and humid for most of the meet.
Yep.
So unfortunately, your second Olympic experience was very similar, if not a mirror image to the first one.
Yeah. So like I said, I came off the London Olympics feeling really inspired for the next 4 years. And I wanted to get back to the Olympic stage and be a better athlete. And I made so much progress in those 4 years. I won that national title. I moved up to the half marathon, and I won a national title in the half marathon. I PR'd in everything from the 800 through the 10,000. I just really felt like, I was a way better athlete. And then I had a bad race in the prelim at the Rio Olympics 5,000. And I ended up finishing in the exact same place as in London in 2012. And so I left that Olympics feeling way more disappointed because, I felt like it didn't reflect all the progress I had made over those 4 years.
Yeah, you're like, why couldn't I at least be 11th? Like, why am I 12th in my heat at the Olympics? Why couldn't I at least have been 11th?
Yep.
So in 2019, I know it wasn't an Olympic year, but you did get bronze medal at the Pan American Games in Lima.
Yeah, that was a fun experience. I really enjoyed, in South America that like they love the Pan Am Games. So it felt like, a really big deal down there. And it's I just love championship racing. So, to be in a situation where you're contending for medals, that's just always so much fun, I think.
Yeah, and whether it's the Pan Am Games, World Olympics, the fact you've got a bronze medal of anything would be special. So obviously, since the COVID pandemic, everybody has adjusted. We're training differently, working out at home. So how's the training change for you?
Last spring, it felt very confusing and uncertain, just not knowing when races were going to emerge and having the Olympics postponed. And so I was just kind of like, I was in Flagstaff and I was just kind of like allowing myself to enjoy running, exploring new places. But it definitely felt a little weird. And then in the summer, there were these like micro meets that started popping up for professional athletes. And And so, I raced some of those. They didn't go great. I wasn't like very well prepared for them. And so now but that experience now has helped me kind of get back on track and be more purposeful in my approach, because I know that, and also right now the Olympics are on the schedule, and therefore the Olympic trials are on the schedule. So I'm certainly every day I'm waking up and training as if those things will happen. But even if they don't, even if they also go away, like I know that they're going to be race opportunities. And so I feel like I'm much more on point now and ready to race.
Did you have any COVID protocols before these makeshift races?
Yeah. Everybody has to have 2 negative tests the week of the race. And then you have to like fill out a questionnaire going in to make sure you're not showing any symptoms. And they take your temperature at the gate.
Yeah. I will definitely be grateful when the doctors don't have to take our temperatures eh, entering any office.
Yeah.
So what's a normal mileage week for you?
In the 90s is very normal right now. That's just that is the like threshold where I feel like I get really fit and I feel really good. I've done less with like some supplemental cross training, but I don't feel like I'm as strong when I do it that way. And then I've done more, and I think I end up leaving my races and my training a little bit when I kind of really go crazy with mileage. So I find that right around 90 is a sweet spot for me.
You solely run, or do you mix in a cross training section once in a while?
Um, my preference is definitely to run. But if I feel like I need to cross train, then I really like mountain biking, especially here in the mountains. So I'll do that. And then twice a week, I also do strength training.
Well, Kim, it seems like Arizona's the home for many of runners. I mean, Ali won the Olympic trial marathon last year. Stefan Kellner performed well. Your high school teammate Sarah Hall has Beeman finishing second in London and winning, coming within a few seconds of breaking Dina Castor's American record in the marathon project.
Yep. Yeah, it's we have a great running community here, and like I said, there's just such an abundant network of options where you can train. So it's just and also the ability to descend during the winter. Like we had a huge snowstorm last week, but I went to Phoenix and I escaped it. And so, I feel like even in inclement weather, you can find good options for running. And so it just makes it a really nice place to train year round.
And what's the coldest weather you've trained in?
I mean, probably I've definitely seen it like 1 degree, but I don't like it that cold.
Yeah, it's pretty chilly in my neck of the woods. It's in the 50s, and we're supposed to get a low high upper 30s, low 40s, which for Florida is chilly.
That is chilly, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Sarah Hall, do you see her competing in big track meets and marathons going forward?
Yeah, she has said that she wants to try to make the Olympic team and the 10K. So I think she is looking at getting, back on the track and making that her focus. And then, I mean, she's just so hot in the marathon though right now, like certainly is she out of all the professional runners, she's done a remarkable job of finding races throughout the entire pandemic. But I think certainly when regular races come back and like the major marathons come back in their kind of like normal glory, she'll certainly be headlining some of those.
I think Sarah's running a half marathon in somewhere, either Abu Dhabi or some weird place, maybe this month, right?
Oh, I hadn't heard that. It wouldn't
I'm
surprise
not
me.
100% sure, but I thought you would know. So if the Olympic trials and Olympics happen this year, who do you think will be the biggest American threats in the 5 or 10K?
Oh, wow. The 10K, I think we have to see who emerges, but based on 2019, like Mariel Hall was looking really good. And it's like, who knows what Shelby's going to do?
Make that, make
She,
that, what a,
if
make
she
that
wants to run the
more.
5K, she can. But if she wants to run the 15, obviously that's what she can do. And I've always kind of had the mindset of why wouldn't you do the shortest possible distance you're good at? But yeah, who knows?
I mean, Stephanie's done what, the 15 and 5 at so many U.S. meets. Why can't you do both?
Yeah, true.
And so, and then you've also got the marathons. I mean, potentially a Sarah Hall, Molly Huddle, Emily Sisson, maybe a
Yeah,
Steph Bruce could come down and run the 10K.
yeah,
10K.
exactly.
And so,
Exactly.
what event would you run? Would you be 5 or 10? Maybe do both.
Yeah, probably both. Right now, I only have the Olympic standard in the 5,000, so I want to try to get it in the 10,000. And if I do that, then I would definitely run it at the Olympic trials.
So, when does your 2021 track season begin?
Um, this month. There, I think there's a race at the end of February that's coming together. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm hoping to get out there in February.
Have you seen the? I know you watched the American Track League last week in Fayetteville and saw the mountain race, and actually seeing legitimate racing made me so excited and ready, and I'm sure it did you.
Oh it's so fun to watch racing. And I think we're gonna get to watch more this weekend. And then the following weekend is New Balance Indoor Grand Prix.
Yep.
So yeah, it's exciting. In general, it's exciting to have sports back, but obviously track is my favorite.
Do you think, speaking of the Olympics, do you think that America could challenge anybody in the 5 or 10K? Because if you think of the international athletes, Stefan Hassan has got to be at the top of anybody's list. I mean, winning the 1500 and 10K in Doha is something I'm not sure anybody
No
has
kidding.
even seen, done, or even thought of doing.
Yeah. Um, I think, the American women are like been coming with a full head of steam for a number of years now, and it's been like creeping up in distance where we have success. So it used to be more of like sprint oriented. And then you had like Brenda Martinez medaling in 2013, and Ajay Wilson has medaled in the 800. And then our 1500-meter runners with Jenny, she also like became a medal contender. And then it evolved to the steeple by 2016 and 17. And so, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we continue with that forward progress. I think you look at, like we've talked about, people like Kellen Taylor, for example, or Rachel Schneider. It's like women are putting up times in the 10,000 now that it's like, I feel like every time there's a 10,000 that's run, it's like people are ending up on the all-time US list in the 10,000. So certainly like the tide is rising in the distances.
And I also feel like seeing athletes like you, whether it's Shelby Houlihan, Jenny Simpson, Emma, Molly Huddle compete, would just get more and more women thinking, you know what, it's not just the sprinters. Well, I mean, if you think back to in the last few years where on the men's side, yeah, Americans have done better in sprint events, but on the women's side, your girls have done remarkable things in distance meets, and I see that going forward.
Yeah, me too.
So, have you considered running a marathon?
I did. And wow, what was I thinking? No, I'm just kidding. In 2016, I made my marathon debut in New York. And it was so hard and so humbling. I ran 241, hoping I would be under 230. And I went through half on that pace, and it just was a really rotten second half and a really long one. I will get back to it. I thought, like, my plan was to move to the marathon after 2020, and obviously that has now been like delayed, because I'm sticking with the track through to try to make the Olympic team. So it's probably whether it's next fall or next spring, but I'll be looking to get back into longer road racing and figure out the marathon. But it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah, someone who only does 5K races, I can tell you a marathon's not on my future plans. I don't think these big legs could run 26.2 miles. Maybe in a day, but not 2.5 hours. So, eating some major habit for runners. What are your last meals the night before your race and the morning you race?
Spaghetti bolognese is my favorite meal in the world. And so having it before the night before a race just makes me happy. I also have it the night before my long runs. Okay, that way I have an excuse to have it at least once a week. So that's what I have the night before all my races. And then oatmeal is just my standard breakfast every morning. It works for me and I love it. So that's what I stick with.
Yeah, when I interviewed a cross-country coach down the road, he told me how oatmeal with banana can fuel runners before a race.
Yep.
So I can't believe this is over, Kim. It seems like I can't believe I just interviewed a U.S. Olympian.
Well, it was really fun, and it was nice to talk to you.
No, it was nice to talk to you, and I wish you all the best this year. And can't wait to see you compete on the actual track, and hopefully, you'll be on that plane to Tokyo.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.